This is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Monday, so you know what time it is. 11 to 12. Me and my guy, we're breaking down the Qs and everything else going on in the sports world. E, what's going on, man? How was your weekend?
That was good. Enjoyed watching the Super Bowl. The 3 overtime win. We had a lot of things happen this weekend.
So what was Super Bowl Sunday like for you? Did you guys have people over? Was it just a fan? Was there a party? Did you go to? What was that like?
No, I didn't do a whole party. We just kind of came back and just watched it. And it's interesting because nobody expected it to be a blowout like this. No matter what team you're rooting for or whatever, nobody expected it to be that lopsided. I mean, that was a beatdown. It wasn't even close to the entire game. The only question was if they were going to break the record for largest margin of victory. It just wasn't close. So nobody really expected that. But I enjoyed watching it, though. It was great to see.
So, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was traveling back from California. I did the Stanford game over the weekend. So, but I was keeping track on my phone. And from what I was reading about it, it was defensively, Philly was unbelievable, man. And obviously, with a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and then Andy Reid at the helm for Kansas City, that's a tough job to do, to be able to shut that team down. And I guess in my mind, I was like, all right, it would be cool to see Kansas City get a three-peat, right? Because it's something that doesn't happen a lot. I guess you go back to Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and them winning all those Super Bowls. So it would have been cool to see, kind of like a dynasty thing. But then on the other hand, all right, man, it's time for somebody else to come in and get a win. And Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia defense. It's like I guess their team, the Eagles, really took on like the city's old feel, like gritty, tough. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I felt like just from reading it and how their defense was playing against Kansas City. So shout out to Philly and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. He deserves it. Jalen Hurts, man. Honestly, like, you can't say enough about this guy. Just the injuries that he's fought through, the people that he keeps himself around, because he seems like he has a pretty tight-knit circle. And I know he has a female agent, the only female agents in sports. I think I could be wrong. But it just seems like a guy to win the Super Bowl. If you want to see a guy win it, you want to see Jalen Hurts, because he does everything the right way.
I just really like when guys overcome a lot of the criticism, because he was receiving so much criticism. You know what I mean? When they lost, 2 years ago? They were just piling on. Philly's a tough city. People say like other places, but Philly, really, like when they love you, they love you. But when you're not playing well or when you don't win, it is a tough city. So he was really getting a lot of criticism, as well as the head coach. You saw he was really emotional. After the game, it was great seeing him. He had his sons with him and picking him up, and he was getting up. But it was great because I saw him overcome a lot of the criticism as well. So if you remember, even the beginning of this year when they didn't start out playing well, they were trying to get him up out of there. They were like, no, he's not the right coach. He's not doing well. Then they started picking at every little thing that he was doing and saying, well, this is wrong. And this is, how Monday morning quarterbacks, that know exactly what could have happened. And just to see him, being able to shut them all up and to win, and then win with class, and then, smile and everything like that and be emotional. I thought it was great.
Okay, so besides the game, obviously a big thing is for every Super Bowl is the halftime show. All right, so I didn't get to see it, and it's going to be opinions on both sides. It's going to be some like, hey, it was great, and then I saw others who say it was the worst. It was the worst of all time. It seems like every Super Bowl you're always going to have somebody say, "Oh man, this was the worst ever," or this was the greatest. I love Kendrick Lamar. I think he's one of the best lyricists in the game. I think he has more depth into his lyrics. It's not just like surface level, right? So from that standpoint, a lot of people don't even understand what he's talking about. You got to go deeper into the lyrics and to really understand where he's coming from. So I understand why some people would kind of just dismiss that right there, because they're like, oh, what is he even talking about? Well, you got to go a little bit deeper under the surface to be able to really find out what he's talking about. But he's a very intellectual guy, and one of the best lyricists. So I saw a little bit of it. I mean, I thought. And I think Kendrick's a great performer, man. I mean, what did you think, E?
I mean, I thought it was amazing, to be honest with you. And I'm hearing the same thing that you're hearing. A lot of people on sports talk radio, on social media, the drive to take my daughter to school. I listen to sports talk radio a lot, and hearing a lot of people saying that they didn't like the performance. The symbolism, first of all, symbolism all throughout the performance was nothing short of brilliant. I mean, that's to be honest with you. We could break it all the way down, but it was, but not everybody has an appreciation, like you said, for the art, or they don't want to necessarily think the way, they just want to kind of be entertained. But that was kind of one of the points of what he was doing, is that things are deeper than just being entertained. But aside from the overall messages, let me ask you this. So, I saw a lot of people saying that they weren't familiar with his music. Like they didn't really know who he was and and I'm like, wait a minute. This is a guy that just won 5 Grammys.
Yeah, right.
He didn't have much of a mainstream appeal. I was like, he won 5 Grammys just a few weeks ago. How much more mainstream appeal can you get? Like, if you're from a marketing standpoint, right? And you're about to put on the production of like the biggest performance in the country, which is the Super Bowl halftime show, right? Who would you line up as your performer? Like somebody who didn't win 5 Grammys just a few weeks ago? Like that's, out of that part, I was like, okay, if you don't like the music, if you don't like but not that he wasn't big enough or didn't deserve to be there or wasn't mainstream enough. Not for that reason. 5 Grammys says something different.
I mean, I know who he is. I mean, I think most people know who he is. He's one of the greatest rappers of this era. Obviously him and Drake, they had that beef going on. So I mean, maybe some people, when that started to know who he was a little bit more, because I think Drake would be a little bit more popular just because he's like more of a pop almost. Like he can rap, but he has that pop feel as well. So I guess more people know about him. But I mean, yeah, Kendrick Lamar, you said it, 5 Grammys. I mean, he's one of the best lyricists in the game. And again, like how people are looking at it from different perspectives. Like what makes a great halftime performance? You know what I mean? Like who do they want to be at the halftime performance to be like, oh, this is the greatest of all time? What is it? Is it Beyonce, Taylor Swift? Like who is it going to be? Like who would be your all-time greatest halftime performance? If you got to pick who it was, who would it be for you?
I mean, we've had so many greats. When you put Michael Jackson and Prince and you know what I mean? Like those are iconic. But for right now, like everybody, so I guarantee you this is the topic of discussion in every school, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, or college today. Like that's the topic of conversation, that the eyeballs that were drawn to this. Like I said, 5 Grammys. I mean, so it might not appeal to a certain demographic, but maybe that's not the demographic that it was targeted. I mean, you can't argue with numbers. So if we're just going off with straight numbers, yeah, the numbers speak that this is who should have been the performer. And there was a lot of discussion also within like the other people who were in New Orleans and from New Orleans and represent New Orleans always. Lil Wayne, Master P, and no disrespect to any of them, but they're not putting up numbers like right now. You know what I mean? Yes, they are legends. Would have been cool to see them maybe come out and maybe wave at the crowd, maybe play a little, I don't know, make them say something like that. Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah. But a whole different vibe, like his whole different message, and 5 Grammys. So I don't know.
Right, and if it was going to be anyone from New Orleans, it would have been Lil Wayne. I couldn't have saw Master P out there doing it. Just to be honest, like because I was listening to Master P when I was like 4th, 5th grade. So like that was like back in the day, like you said, make them say and then they put the Ghetto Dope album, all that. Right. So that was like back in the day. So people would have been like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Percy Miller, the guy who used to try try out for the NBA. Is that the guy they're talking about? But no, I thought Kendrick Lamar. I thought he was great. But again, you're going to get different perspective, different opinions. That's just always how it's going to be. So, let's take a quick break real quick, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the triple overtime win over Boston College this weekend.
The Sports Show with
Another guy that did not let it. I'm going to put my hand up and say I'm 52, and I had no idea who Kendrick Lamar was.
You did it?
You didn't have any idea? He just won 5 Grammys.
I know, but my music stopped about 2002, around there. Like, that's when I stopped listening to new stuff, so I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know who won the Grammys last year, or this year. Like, I don't listen to it, but I thought the performance was fine. I just felt old. I'm like, I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah. Did you know?
I wasn't shaking my fist. I wasn't shaking my fist and being like, who is this young whippersnapper? But it was just, I didn't know anything.
How was you with Usher's performance? Was that last year or the year before that? Whatever it was.
Yeah, I liked Usher. I know Usher. He was he started in the 90s, so I know him. Like, I was
Hey, Paulie, it is a little like a high pitch, like when we talk. Can you hear that? E? Like it was like
I can't hear it.
Well, you kind of choppy a little bit. So for some reason, I noticed that when she started talking, it's a little bit choppy.
Let me take my headphones out and see if it sounds like this. How's that sound?
Completely different. Yeah, so maybe it was the headphones.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I hear like a little. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Somebody in the chat said that too.
You don't sound choppy anymore, though.
Okay, perfect. They said Devo has a little echo. Yeah, big. Yeah, see, they're saying in the chat that they still hear it. I don't know.
It sounds like you're getting a hearing test.
See, I don't hear the ringing or the beeping that you're talking about. I don't hear that on my end.
Yeah, they said it's on your side, E. I don't know. I don't hear it like that, but I don't know.
Both on my side? Hold on, let me see. All right, hold up. Let me try this. Is that better? I unplugged my computer. I didn't do anything magical, but you know.
No, it is. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's not terrible.
It's not terrible. We see in the chat. We work with us, baby. Work with us.
I barely hear it.
Technology.
Technology.
How loud are you listening? Because I have it blasted, and it's.
Yeah, I don't know. They're saying he said it's almost unbearable. The guy.
Yeah, that's probably his computer because it's not unbearable.
Okay, so now he said it's all good. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, well, come on. Big Poppy. Okay, Big Poppy. All right, cool. It was 03 champs, 3-5 said it's almost unbearable. I don't know. Sounds good over here, bud.
He probably thinks coaches cause players to miss free throws too. So.
We got to have JJ get out of the. It's just go through it.
Man, when you start breaking down people's free throws, it just, however you shoot it, it got to go in. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. That was a tough position. We'll talk about it when we go on live, but that was a tough position, you know? And
it's almost like he's thinking when he shoots the ball. I mean, it's because he didn't used to. I used to see him before that in high school. He was just right through it.
ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Diebendorf.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, I know the chat was saying there was some noise in there, but look, we don't hear it. And if you hear it on your end, that might be your computer. But we apologize if you still hear it a little bit. But we're here. We're still rolling. And we're going to get into the triple overtime win versus Boston College. And E, first off, man, you better beat Boston College. That's all I got to say. Boston College is going to be one of those teams that probably it doesn't make the ACC tournament. It's them and Miami who've really locked those two bottom spots right now. I think in North Carolina State, they're I had them over the weekend. They're tied too. I think Boston College and them are both 2-10, if I'm not mistaken. And then Miami is, I want to say 1-11. So, but that ACC, there's all a big clump in the middle, man. Like if you win one, you could hop up 4 spots. If you lose one, you could go right back down to that 4th spot where you're right on the verge of not making the ACC tournament. So look, regardless of who it was, we got the win. What did you see, over the weekend in that win?
So, well, first, let me just ask. So if we right now, standings today, like if it were to be in right now, we're right above those bottom 3, right? So the bottom 3, so with this win, we're right above NC State, Miami, and Boston College. Those are the 3 who wouldn't go in to the ACC tournament, correct?
Yes. I'm going to bring standings up, but yes, that's what it looks like, I believe. Let me see real quick.
All right. Yeah. We had that was a must-win for us, to be honest with you. It was a win where we should have ended it in regulation. It's a tough position to be in free throws. Guys played. Hey, Eddie Lampkin. I give a shout out to Eddie Lampkin. He played well. Jair Davis played well. So the bigs did work. They were rebounding. They were battling. Jair has this nice rhythm going with his offense. Big fellas out there working the whole time, banging with their big guy, I forget his name. But they're out there battling. So they played well. And it was good to hear Red give Bell a shout out for getting, what did he get, 6-7 rebounds?
He said he had 6 rebounds.
You know what I mean? Shout out for Chris Bell. You know what I mean? Hey, it was good to hear.
Bro. It's about time, though. He went on the boards. He's 6'7". So, Chris Bell played 29 minutes. He was 3 for 10, 1 for 6 from 3, 5 for 6 from the free throw line, and then he had 6 rebounds. So he had 1 offensive rebound. All right, so he was hitting the glass. He did only blemish on that. He had 4 turnovers. But, 6 rebounds, that's something that you think Chris Bell would be able to do on a consistent basis every single game. And if he was able to do that, as little as that it might seem, that's a big stat right there for Chris Bell. Just being able to get 6 rebounds, usually we see him get 0, 1, or 2. So for him to get 6 rebounds means he was a little bit more active. He wasn't worried about just making or missing the shots. He was doing a little bit more on the floor, and that's what Cuse needs him to do that. He has to be able to do more in other areas to be able to be more of an impact and add more value.
No, I definitely agree. The free throws. Help me out with the free throws. What's going on with our free throws? We're struggling with them, to be honest with you. And I'm not that aside. JJ, with those, that was a tough position to be in. You know what I mean? It was hard. Yes, he could have ended it in regulation. That's tough. But just overall, what's going on with our free throws?
Honestly, Syracuse hasn't been known as like a great free throw shooting team historically, right? Even I remember going back to when I played, our guards were always the ones kind of holding down the percentages. Like we shot the free throws well, but overall I think it'd be like 70% maybe from the line. So it wasn't great, but this team is not good at all. Even the guards struggle shooting the ball from the free throw line. They were 18 for 32.
Yeah, that's tough.
And look, getting to the line 32 times, that's good. But when you miss 14 free throws, and not only are you missing the free throws, but you're missing them in situations where you could lock the game up, you could win the game. It's just, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but when you get to the line, that's just a mental thing, right? Like, I've seen guys in practice knock them down 20, 25 in a row. And then when you get into the game, you got some people watching you, you're on TV, your mind goes elsewhere and you're not able to focus in, and then you just start missing them. That's more of a mental thing, right?
I think one of the things that I've seen that's kind of helped a lot, throughout the years is that you don't shoot 25 in a row in practice. You shoot maybe 2 and 3, and then you do it down and back. Because when you're in the game, we're winded. It's not like you're just sitting there, not tired at all or anything like that. But you do, you do a sprint or something like that, and then you go back to the line. Just to your point, if that's part of it. But I don't know. You don't want to start breaking down mechanics of somebody's shot or anything like that. I'm looking at JJ and seeing that he has a little, not a hitch, but a little pause sometimes. And you don't want to break. I mean, if it goes in, it goes in. And so when you miss it, then you start breaking stuff down and trying to get somebody to change stuff. But I don't know. What do you see in the mechanics, or what do you see as the reason for some of these misses?
So I mean, look, you've played with a bunch of shooters. You've played against a bunch of shooters. I mean, I see Reggie Miller, like Peja Stojakovic. They didn't have like the cleanest looking shot. Like Reggie almost went like this. Yes. But it went in. I think the biggest thing with a shooter is just confidence, right? And if you miss one, if you miss two, you miss three, you just keep shooting the ball. You don't let that affect you. And I think sometimes with JJ, he starts missing it, and then he's letting that affect him. Like he's getting in his head, and he's starting to think like he's not a good shooter. I know for one, Reggie Miller missed 6, 7 in a row. Man, he still thinks he's the greatest shooter on the court. I mean, that's the advantage that he had just from his mindset. So, yeah, does JJ have a little? It's like a little pause or a little hitch, whatever it is. I mean, ideally, you want to just go through it and just be one motion for your shot, right? But to your point, you don't want to have to fix it during the year, because now it's all messed up. Now he's in the game. He's not, when he has an open shot, he's thinking about it before, instead of just going right into your shot. And honestly, on the catch and shoot, it looks pretty good. Like most of the time, he just goes through it. It's just a flow to it. But then when you get to the free throw line, it just seems like it's a little pause right there. And it's almost like when you pause, now you're pushing your shot instead of just having a smooth rhythm going through it. But I mean, man, look, for shooters, I don't care who it is. You just have to have confidence, man. Like we've seen guys with funky releases and forms, but it goes in. Like, honestly, even when I was shooting the ball, my shot, sometimes like when I went, my hand would be here. So like the thumb would make it go like that sideways spin, right? And it wouldn't be the regular rotation. Now it's like, if I was to shoot the ball, it's better because it's more like just going through it. But I mean, man, in my career, I made over 200 threes. I was like an 84% free throw shooter, like almost mid 30s to high 30s 3-point percentage. So for me, I didn't have the best form, but it was just like confidence. Every time I got the ball, I just thought it was going to go in. And if I missed it, I wasn't going to let it get me down to where I'm not going to shoot the ball, or I'm thinking about shooting the next shot. So that's the biggest thing with JJ. Man, just shoot the ball and have confidence. You're the man on this team. You're going to get the shots. You had 22 shots this game. You're 10 for 22, 2 for 6. I mean, the only thing I'm looking at, 6 for 10 from the free throw line, he's capable of knocking those down. So being a shooter is just about confidence. But I mean, going back to Eddie Lampkin real quick. He struggled against Duke, right? He didn't have a good game at all, but he comes back against Boston College, and I'm looking at the stat line. People all year talking about he's out of shape, and yes, he can be in better shape. I get that. He just has one of those bodies, where it's like, all right, this is kind of who he is. You know what I mean? But he played 49 minutes. He was 6 for 12 from the field. Again, 2 for 6 from the free throw line. But he had 18 rebounds, 3 assists, 14 points. And he scored over 1,000 points in his career. To all the people who have been on criticizing Eddie, and I've been one of them. Like I was in the beginning of the year, I was criticizing him. I said he had to be in shape, he had to lose some weight, he had to be able to be more mobile and active defensively. Look, for what Eddie is and what his game is, I think he's done all that he can, and he's had a pretty good year.
Well, one of the things that people have to always remember, I know we kind of kept saying it, is at the beginning of the year, he was injured. He was coming off a back injury. So he wasn't moving as mobile as he probably would have if he was 100% healthy, but he was pushing through it. He wasn't complaining. He wasn't making excuses. He wasn't saying, oh, my back hurt today and everything. He was just giving it his all. So a lot of times, a lot of the criticism of people, because this is one of the things, when you step on the court, you're going to be judged as if you're 100% healthy. That's just the way it is. So, and that goes to a lot of people saying about, Donnie and saying, well, if he could give us a little something, or if he can do a little something for us. So I was like, well, that doesn't really benefit you to do a little something if you're not healthy, because you're not going to be able to do what everybody is expecting you to do. And they'll just forget about your injury, because once you step out there, nobody's worried about your injury. So, but that's what I got to give Etan a lot of credit for, is he pushed through it and didn't make excuses. So now, as we see him getting, healthier and healthier and in better shape and able to move more, he's able to do a lot of things. But 18 rebounds, 14 points, you know what I mean? Playing 49 minutes, something like that. He's working out there, So I definitely got to give him props. Definitely got to give him props. Now, one thing I want to ask you, though, I know we probably got to go to break in a little while, but one thing I do want to ask you is, were you surprised that Choppa didn't play more in the second half or the overtimes? Because he started off so well. Help me out with that one. Because I'm not going to say he carried us in the beginning, but he was really a consistent scorer. Like, he really was looking good. So I was kind of scratching my head as to why he didn't play more in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy who offensively, so I think, what did he have, 11 points in the first half? He had 2 threes and he had a couple of drives, and I think he had a pull-up. But the only thing I can think of is for defensive purposes. Like, that's the only reason why he hasn't seen significant minutes this year, is because from what I heard and from what Red was saying is his defensive ability. They just need more of him on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, if he could do this, you obviously need him on the court, right? And we know he can shoot. We know he's a scorer. He's getting better at putting it down on the ground, but he is still a little bit of a defensive liability. Can he guard the 1? Can he guard the 2? Is he quick enough to stay in front of the point guards? Is he strong enough to guard some of those wings in the ACC? So that would be my only thing. Why he's not seeing those consistent minutes is the defensive side of the ball. But again, to his defense, nobody on Q's really has been playing great D this whole year. So, I mean, if we're going to have a guy in that's, messing up on D, I'd rather have him be scoring that ball on the other end so we could at least balance it out a little bit. But let's go to break real quick, and we'll finish talking about that. And I also want to touch upon a little bit more about Donnie Freeman and him being out for the season, and just what we were talking about as far as people thinking that, I don't know, he wasn't really hurt or whatever it is. Look, the kid's hurt, but we'll talk about that when we come back from break.
The 315 with Brian Higgins.
This is a very new and very young women's lacrosse roster. Like, for the first time in a long time, COVID years, 5th years, 6 years, Emma's, Megan's.
Yeah. So, question for Etan / Eric. Should Autry prioritize retention of eligible players in the offseason or upgrading talent if he has the NIL cash? Could continually to be better for coach in developing and working through adversity with these guys be better than upgrading talent on paper, but having to build rapport with new guys again?
That's a good question. I think that's a good question. I think it all depends. You're starting over from scratch, developing a new rapport with players. We're from a different era. We're from a different era where guys are, they might have had a certain role the year before, and then the following year they have a bigger role. They've been integrating to the system a little bit more. They've seen what coach wants them to do, even if it doesn't fully encapture everything of their capabilities. They see what coach wants to do. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it takes a little bit. So then they come back the next year and they know, okay, coach wants this right here. Coach wants me to get to the nail here. So I already know that I got to get to the nail here. I'm going to get to, because they've already experienced that. Now with another player, depending on if they might be ranked higher or might have better abilities or whatever, but they still have to learn what coach wants. They still have to learn the system. So it can kind of work. It can kind of work either way, but that's a good question. Whoever did ask that, though.
Yeah, that was. He has a bunch of numbers, and SL123450.
That's a screen name. All right. But what do you think, though? Do you agree with what I said, or?
I mean, yeah, I think so. It has to be a balance, right? Like, you have to be able to retain guys, because you don't want to start over every single year from step one, right? Like, I mean, I've talked to a lot of coaches, and obviously the older coaches are going to feel like they don't want to have to start all over again, because now they're feeling like, for example, I talked to Coach, Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. He was basically saying, with the guys, every time you have to start over, they're going through stuff that, halfway through the season that they should have already took care of in the beginning of the year, as far as like plays and just knowing where to be at on the floor. You know what I mean? So like, I get that, but man, again, this is just how the landscape is. So it's going to be guys are going to be going all over. So you have to be able to talk about Louisville, like Coach Pat Kelsey. He's done a great job. He has all new guys. It wasn't one new guy. I think maybe one walk-on. So you have to be able to recruit character.
New guys, or it wasn't one returning player, you mean?
No, they had one returning player and he was a walk-on.
Okay, so everybody else was new.
Everybody had like 14 or 13 new guys, right? And my thing is, when you do that, you got to know who you're recruiting and who you're bringing in. Like, you got to have guys knowing, like, all right, hey, when you talk, this is going to be your role. I know you came from so-and-so and you're the man, but now we need you to be a shooter and a defender, or a rebounder and a hustle guy, whatever it is. So, like, when you recruit guys, like, you have to know, like, are they high quality guys? Or like, do they have character? Are they going to, buy into the team concept? Not just coming here to get a check and then try to be the man, because it's not going to work like that. Because a lot of times, like, yep, go ahead, E.
Let me add to that, though. You have to be honest with guys when you're recruiting them about what you want their role to be. So a lot of times coaches aren't being honest. They're telling them you could do this when you get here, just to get them there. And then they come there expecting that, and then that's not what happens. You know what I mean? So then you have dysfunction. You're like, wait a minute, you told me I was supposed to do this. Why am I over here doing this? Whatever this is. So coaches have to be honest with people about what they're, sometimes the pressure from the fan base and everything like that to get new players if they don't have a good year, kind of like what we're in, you know what I mean? And wanting to have some kind of upgrade to keep the fans excited about what's going to happen, what's new, and that you're doing something. I mean, sometimes that's not always the best solution, but you have to be honest with the guys that you're bringing in, or they're just going to leave because they find out that you told them something that wasn't true.
And really, it's just so hard, man. And for me, like, why would you tell a kid something different? It's going to make it harder for you as a coach. Like, I'm just going to keep it real with you.
Yeah. All the time.
You guys are back.
What do you say?
Oh, we're back. Hey, what's up, guys? We're back. Sorry, we didn't. we were chatting it up in the chat with our guys, but welcome back. So
let's keep going with that, because a lot of the fan base right now, that's the discussion. There's a shout out to the guy who asked us that during the break. But would it be better? Frame how he asked the question. Would it be better for us to go and get new players? Or would it be better to kind of build with the players that we have here? Something to that effect, right? So what I was saying was that goes both ways, because sometimes when a coach is recruiting another player from another program, they aren't being forthright with what actually their role is going to be once they get there. They just want to get them there. And that doesn't work, because players get there and they're immediately unhappy because they're like, wait a minute, you told me that I was going to be doing X, Y, and Z, and now you're telling me only do A, B, and C. And that's not what you told me. So you have guys disgruntled as soon as they get there. So a lot of times when you have players that were there a year before, and this is how it was back when, I was playing, when he was playing, your role can increase and grow from what it was the previous year, because now you know what the coach wants of you. You know the system. You know where you fit in the system. You know the things that you have to work on, and then you can be successful that next year on things that you had to kind of learn the previous year. So you bring somebody else new in, and they're like starting that process all over again. Now, of course, it works. And you mentioned Louisville, that you've had situations where it worked, but I have a whole lot of different examples where it didn't work.
Yeah, more so than not.
Yeah. Where transfers come in and, you're like, wow, they're not doing anything that they was doing before, because for one, they think the grass is greener because they're being sold that the grass will be greener over there. So I think it kind of works both ways.
It does work both ways. For me, like, it has to be a balance, right? But I'd rather, like, again, and if my guys if they're not doing their job, they're not good, and they want to leave, okay, I get it. But if you could see, like, this guy can get better, he can develop, I want to retain those guys because, like you said, I want to build on what we're doing right now. I don't want to have to start over from scratch every single year. That's like going back to when we were playing AAU growing up. You got a new kid coming on the team every single weekend. You don't know him. He's just like, you don't know what type of player he is. It's hard to be able to do that. Like you're really just freestyling. And at this level, you can't do it because coaches are scheming. They got different defenses. They offer whatever it is. Like you have to have those guys who know what their role is, like know what they're capable of doing, and know that, like, hey, this coach has my back. Like he's going to be with me, good and bad, because he knows that I can develop and I can progress. But now you do have to go to the portal. And you do have to be able to get guys as well. I think so. Louisville is a great example of that, right? But then another team, obviously, is Duke. Duke did a great job of obviously they got Cooper Flagg, right? He's a generational guy. Like for me, he's the best player in college basketball. Even though they lost to Clemson, Clemson is a great team. Coach Brad Brownell has done an unbelievable job there at Clemson. But John Shire did a good job of getting like veteran guys, putting around a really, really good player. And then these other guys are just like, man, we just want to win. We just want to win. So, like, it goes back to, like, getting high character guys who, like, just want to win and compete at a high level. Like, so many guys now are just like, how much money could I get? I don't care if I'm winning. I just want to look, we win or not, win, lose, or draw. I'm going to get that check. I'm going to get that $25,000 a month. So that's you don't want to have those type of guys on your team. Yes, I understand you trying to get paid, but you want to win too. Because if you're that type of guy, man, listen, that money is going to dry up quick, and you're not even going to have a chance to like have a career in the NBA or overseas because winning solves everything, right? If you're not that type of guy, you're going to have a short-lived career. So like it goes to what type of guys are you recruiting, and then how do these guys mesh together? And I just go back to Louisville. I just think he recruited high quality guys and guys that really mesh together and work well together.
Well, but I do want to keep just emphasizing that coaches have to be honest with guys when they're recruiting them as far as what I don't know if so even when we talked about before with the promises of NIL amount, and that's what you're leading with. And, we talked about before, well, if guys don't have this in writing or if they don't have it with proper representation, that this would happen. But coaches have been promising things for years. You know what I mean? Now this monetary is different, but coaches have always been promising things for years. And then the player get there, nothing happens that the coach promised. So
That's true.
You can't get coaches off the hook with that one because they use that as a recruiting tool to get the players to come over there. And that is not effective. Just be honest. Like, if you come here, this will be your role. Now, if you're willing to do this, then we can do that. But this is what you're going to be doing. And just be honest with players, Yeah. But I know we wanted to talk about Donnie. So there's a lot of discussion I saw on social media after he announced that he was going to have surgery, season-ending surgery. And a lot of people kind of questioning, well, why didn't he have the surgery earlier? Why did they list it day to day at first and then, keep extending? Why was Coach Red so vague every time that he was asked about, Donnie's status? Why did it seem like, at some point, Coach started saying things like, well, it's kind of up to him. We'll see what he wants to do, trying to put the onus more on him, which I really don't, not a big fan of that because it kind of puts the pressure on the player to forget what the doctors are saying. Can you tough through it? Can you give us 60% or all that other stuff that ends up with guys, hurting themselves more. But what was your interpretation of everything, and where do they go from now as far as what to expect from Donnie? Because those are the questions that are kind of looming. What can we expect for next year? What should this have been something that he did from the beginning? Like, what are your thoughts?
Real quick, I'm gonna answer that question. Let's take another quick break, and so we can come back and have some time to talk about that.
Cool.
Hey, this is player Etan Thomas.
Last season, the Syracuse center became the first Orangeman to be named the Big East Defensive Player of the Year.
Because last time we came back and we only had like 30 seconds to even say something, so I was like, all right, let's Yeah, because we came in last time and we couldn't even really finish our. It's because we had like 45 seconds. Because it's at 55, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. Perfect. So he is. So the Donnie's having surgery. Is it today?
Sometime this week.
And did they say it was a stress fracture? They didn't even say.
They can't say what it is, but I'm assuming that's what it is.
See, I didn't know you have surgery on stress fractures. If
It's worst case scenario.
Okay.
So they tried to let it heal, and then they finally, it wasn't healing, so that's probably what they did. So
Yeah. And that's kind of like what's happened with Scoop, right? He never had surgery. They just kind of waited it out the whole year. Because he redshirted that 1 year.
Yeah, stress fractures are kind of tricky though, because it depends on the degree of stress fracture. You could have like a hairline fracture, or you could have like a major, you know what I mean, fracture. And it's kind of different. Hairline fractures can kind of heal after a while. You're kind of not having pressure on it. You're having like a boot on, which is like I saw what he had. And that could be a thought that it heals, but if time goes by and it doesn't heal, then you have to do something else.
So what do you think for him, going forward? I mean, I think he comes back. I think it would be the smart move to come back. I mean, just, because you don't go to the draft. You're not doing that. I mean, would you possibly get drafted? Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't, maybe, but I just don't think it's smart. And then if you transfer to another school, you got to get set up with the rehab there and do it. I think you're just already, like, the situation you're in, just go through your rehab at Cuse, get it healthy, come back, be 100% ready to play next season, have a good year, and then shoot out to the league. Like, you're going to get NIL money. I mean, do you have opportunity to get more somewhere else? Probably. You probably do. But for a guy like him, long term, you're going to make a lot of money anyway. You know what I mean? You're gonna be an NBA guy, right? And so even if you go this year to Syracuse, you make $250. Man, look, that's $250 is straight. Like but you might be able to make $6 or $650 somewhere else, and that is a lot more. But at the same time, I just think a kid like him, that opportunity to make money is gonna be there. It's like if it was somebody different, I get it, but for him, you're gonna be an NBA guy.
But let me ask you this though. If you have a job opportunity and one job opportunity gives you $250, a job opportunity will give you $650 or $7, which one you gonna take? As any kind of business, you know what I mean? Of any kind of person, or you can present it to the chat or whoever. $250, just using the number that you gave, or 6 or 7. That's a big jump. So if you're like before, and we have to up our NIL. That's what we have to do. So we do not lose people for that.
Period. That's it. That's all there is to it. I mean, enough said. You got to get your NIL game up. Period, man. Because we're not even talking about it. It's not even a discussion. We can give you that much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think him and Moore will be back because unlike the fans, they like the coach. So
you said who likes the coach?
The players actually like the coach.
Oh, yeah. So did you see what? I mean, obviously you saw the thing that Judah's grandpa put up.
No.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yes.
Did that happen though? Was he?
I don't know.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan and Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Hey, welcome back. And if you guys aren't in the chat when we're not on and you're not listening, you're missing out on some good conversations, man. So we just want to hop back into it. We're talking about Donnie Freeman. He's going to be out for the year. He's going to have surgery this week sometime. So, let's just keep that conversation going. We're talking about, for him going forward, what would be the best thing for him to do next season? Would it be, to come back Syracuse? Is he going to go transfer somewhere else? Is he going to put his name in the NBA draft, which I don't think He should do. Can he get drafted? Yes, he probably can, but it'd be like some Chris McCullough type thing. Remember, I don't know if you remember Chris McCullough. He tore his ACL, played like 10 games, and then he ended up getting the promise from the Brooklyn Nets, and he got drafted first round. And it's kind of similar, like they're similar body types, right? So I could see like a team like, hey, come here, rehab, we'll draft you, you're going to be all good. So I could see something like that happening. But for me, Donnie, stay at Q's. Q's, you got to get your NIL game up. We talked about that. You got to get your NIL game up. Get him some money, rehab, come back 100%, and then just kill it your sophomore year, and then put your name in the draft.
I mean, you said it, you hit the nail right on the head. We have to get our NIL game up, so if we can give him, just looking at numbers that we talked about in the, in the chat during the break, if we can get him like 250 or something like that, but another school is offering him 650 or 7 or 8, those are two different numbers. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't come down to that for Syracuse University to lose a player because of that reason. I saw Coach Boeheim talking about that there's a certain number that the House is going to vote on that we should all be expecting, that he's expecting to pass and for us to be able to get. But I wasn't quite clear on it, because does that mean that every school is going to get this $20 million, or how that's going to be allocated between the basketball team and the football team if the program does get that $20 million? That part I wasn't quite clear. But if I'm thinking every school gets that, then every school just goes up $20 million, right? So then that still puts us at a disadvantage, correct? Or am I interpreting this wrong?
Again, I'm not super versed on it either, but I know it's like the House or whatever it's called, the House. And then, so every college would get that $20 million from the NCAA. I'm assuming, maybe I'm wrong. Paulie, tell me if I'm wrong. But
you guys are right so far.
Okay, so they get that $20 million. But this is what I heard. Out of that $20 million, 85% goes to football, and then the rest basketball, and then the rest women's basketball. So I know Coach Boeheim said you got $20 million to work with, but I heard different. So the basketball team wouldn't get $20 million; they'd get 50. What it would be 10% of that. So whatever you're getting, $2 million, $2.5 million, $3 million, which is, you need more. You need more than $3 million. I mean, just to give you a perspective on the NIL, Kentucky's starting 5, and we talked about that already before on a other show, recent show. They're getting $5.5 million between the starting 5.
Yeah,
between the starting 5, they're getting $5.5 million. That's bigger than the Syracuse whole team budget. So
that's tough, because it's a regular job. If you have a job that offers you 3 times as much as your current job is offering you, then what do you do? So, that reason, it shouldn't be a reason that we lose players. So I don't know what we have to do or how we have to get our collective up or get more in our trust or whatever it is, but that's just going to keep happening, because other schools with a bigger collective are going to recruit other players from other places that can't pay them what they can pay them. That's just business. That's just what's going to happen.
The SEC is at the top of the game right now. I mean, as far as NIL, they got it. You know what I mean? They have the NIL money. And if whoever's watching the show, I mean, you can go into the Q's Collective. You can donate your $10, $20, whatever it is. But they got to go outside and get these boosters involved to donate money, right? But obviously, you have to win basketball games for them to want to be involved, right? Because it's an investment that they want to, not necessarily get their money back on, but they want to know that it's going to good use, right?
So it's like, if you do this, then you'll get this. So you heard what Jay Williams said about us during the broadcast. He said, basically said the same thing that we're saying, that Syracuse has to get their NIL game up, so that, he didn't say it in those words, but that's something that we need to look at. So I don't know, it's not going to go away. It's going to come back, every year. If we don't get our NIL game, we'll be having the same discussion for the next few years.
15.
Yeah, so E, we got about 15 seconds left. Next game we got is Miami on the road. What's your take against?
Gotta win that game.
Okay, that's it.
We're not losing to Miami.
That's it. Hey, look, it's the worst team in the conference. You better, just same as BC, you better get a win, man. We appreciate you, everyone, tuning in with us. Make sure you come by again next Monday, 11 to 12. We're going to be chopping it up, me and my guy E. We appreciate you.
Syracuse basketball